Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Vind with Financial Solutions.
I want to give an update on the 2009 refunding. Mike was here a few weeks ago along with Brian Bradley, where you approved the documents to commence with the refunding and refinancing of the 2009 general obligation bond. Part of that process is a review of the county's rating by Standard & Poor's, and we've been informed last week that Standard & Poor's has downgraded our bond rating from an A to an A-. The immediate result of that is the recommendation on the part of Mr. Vind and Brian Bradley at RBC that we put the refunding on hold for now, since the change in the rating has changed the level of savings, in part, also due to a change in some rating, in some rates, I'm sorry, this time.
Can I just jump in real quick, Jim?
Go ahead with the rates, yeah.
Yeah, on Thursday we were here when we approved it, and Thursday, Friday, and that following Monday, we had a loss or a rise in rates across the curve of 17 to 20 basis points, which is the largest run actually in several years. So although the rating did have some effect on it, that if we would have just had the same rates last Thursday and the downgrade, we'd still be at our $200,000 threshold. But since the rates dropped so significantly, we're right now at, as of this morning, $180,000. So there was a significant rise in rates coupled with the downgrade.
And that 180 is less than what you'd recommend that we go for at this point. We were at 260 at one time.
We recommend at least $200,000.
Just to go over a little bit of the rating that was issued by Standard & Poor's last Friday. They've given the county the A- due to a deficit general fund balance to close of 2011. That deficit was $70,000 on the general fund budget, which is approximately $35 million. So while it's a deficit, it's, you know, in relative relation to it, it's not a big number, but it's enough for them to see some concern. They also noted some liquidity pressures that have necessitated the use of short-term borrowing. They're referring there to the county's need to go to tax anticipation notes for the last 3 years for the first couple of months of operating. They made mention in here also the county's reassessment and revaluing, saying that the values are now at $9.8 billion, which was the amount that was approved, the level that was approved on property values last November, and that as a result, the property tax rate was lowered to 2.49 mils, which is well below the 25 mil cap. I take that as their reference being there's some room there if the county needs to.
That's a positive.
In terms of millage. They point out the county's finances are under pressure, highlighted by the general fund drawdowns in 4 of the past 5 audited fiscal years. Transfers from the general fund in support of the county's nursing home, which have been in 2009 $1.4 million, in 2010 $2.8 million, and in 2011 $4.4 million. And while the county has made cuts in the nursing home's budget, they expect that to continue to be a source of pressure for the general fund. Next paragraph talks a little again about the $70,000 deficit negative balance at the end of 2011. The unaudited information for 2012 shows the general fund returning to positive territory at $75,000 over. However, that also includes a $92,000 appropriation that was needed to balance the budget, which I might add was the lowest in a very, very long time that was needed to balance the budget. Nevertheless, it was needed from reserves. We also are anticipating some refunds from our health insurance pool carrier due to lower than expected utilization costs. I shared that with the S&P. They, you know, in an effort to demonstrate that there will be and already has been some cash on hand due to those refunds. They're aware of that. However, they deal in black and white numbers, and so you can say everything you want, but it's they're going to deal with what they see in an audit.
And they said they are willing to review the county's credit, you know, at the end of this fiscal year, showing that that $2 million or a large portion of that's going to drop again to the bottom line. What they really were concerned about was the draw on the fund balance year after year after year, and in this case, due to the county nursing home subsidy.
They talked again about the TRAN, each of the past 3 years. I would note there that the drawdown of the TRANs has decreased. We initially in 2011 borrowed $5.5 million, 2012 $4 million, and 2013 $3 million. So those are decreasing amounts. We didn't always draw entirely on all of that. Those were the levels that we borrowed. And lastly, I would say that the pension fund was another factor that they considered. We are at a 70% funded ratio, and they noted that the county has not made a pension contribution since 2006. Since 2008 there was a $500,000 contribution, and in 2012 they noted when we discontinued the health insurance, or the $500 stipend to retirees was discontinued. That $101,000 went right into the pension fund. They did note that, and they also are aware that there's $500,000 contributed, or that a contribution budgeted for 2013. And as I explained to them, that this board is facing the problem and has discussed it openly, and is recognizing it and attempting to do what's possible anyway at this point. However, they're saying likely that we're going to face increasing pressures with the ARC and the pension liability. And just in terms of numbers, they point out that the county's overall debt, and this means overall in the county, is $2,900 per capita. That includes all school district, municipal, and county debt. If you take county debt alone, it's $250 per capita, which is a relatively low number among our peers.
The county does not have a lot of debt.
No. The city of Harrisburg has $70,000 per capita, and counties around us have $5,000 and $6,000 per capita. $2,500 is, or $250 is like, wow.
Yeah,
low.
no, it's very low.
Yeah.
So in the last paragraph, again, they pointed to the budget pressure stemming from the nursing home, seems unlikely to abate in the near term. Should surpluses materialize in 2012 and 2013, and structural balance is achieved, essentially a positive at the end of the year, then they could return the outlook to stable, which Mike mentioned. So those are my comments on it. If you want to add anything from the commissioners.
I mean, the only other thing, this is a continuing pressure for all counties. There's been a lot more downgrades than upgrades, especially in the past 2 years. For instance, Lancaster County got downgraded 2 notches last year because of the drop in fund balance. That's what they're looking at as the major metric. You know, what's that? Because that drives the liquidity for everything else. If there's something that's unexpected that happens, how can you pay for it?
Yeah.
So that's what they're, unfortunately, that's what they're looking at as the full. I know that this board has taken a lot of measures to abate that and bring that back to a positive, hopefully. I mean, we're expecting at the end of this year with that reimbursement from the healthcare utilization, you know, in the $2 million range. So that's going to be a nice positive. I still think that this is going to return to $200,000 worth of savings within the next month, hopefully. But we wanted to give you an update, go over this, make sure, you know, you've approved everything. We just wanted to give you an update and make sure everyone's on the same page and allow you to ask any questions that you may have.
Okay.
My question is it going to cost us any more to wait?
No.
Okay.
Well, unless
He
rates
doesn't.
continue to
No,
rise.
your fees.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, all professional fees, they're nothing.
You
Nothing's
don't
going
have
to
a
change
waiting
here.
fee.
No,
then,
there's
that's
no
good.
waiting fee.
Right. I didn't know if it had to be executed within 30 days or
Oh,
something.
no, not at all.
John, would you hold your questions so I allow the board members to comment on the rating change? Commissioner Phillips.
I think it's a report card, a snapshot of where we are now, but I think when you listen to the earlier report from Des on hirings and replacements, every time we save half a position, or, you know, we're taking all these steps at every turn to try to tighten up the each department and make them all aware that this is a cultural change we have to be all part of. And so, yes, it's a hit, but it supports what we're doing, and it certainly supports our efforts at Cedar Haven to try to right that ship, you know, to make them more aware of their margin. So, you know, in a way, as I've heard a couple times, you know, it's like going from a 95 to a 90 on a report card. Still very good, but it is a hit. But we know that we're taking steps to address these issues.
Yeah, you're still in the A investment category. It's like I said, if the rates hadn't dropped, you still would have been well above that 200,000. That would have made a big difference.
Commissioner Litz?
Okay, well, the whole report saddens me because last year we were under a court-ordered reassessment. And it was mandated, basically. We did what we had to do. At the end, we kept telling people, and of course it was mandated that that reassessment be revenue neutral. So to raise taxes at the end of the year, even though it would have been a cap on what we could have raised it, would have sent a conflicting message, and people wouldn't have heard that it was separate. So we were frugal, and we lived within our means, and I think that's what the public expected, and we stepped up to the plate, and we met that mandate. So instead of being rewarded for that and having a low per capita debt, we got chastised for that, and that bothers me. It saddens me. It really does. I'd also like to say that we didn't miss any TRAN payments, and they were paid back early. So that is not a sin. That's good management. Again, Jamie watches that, Sally watches that. We don't do this haphazardly. And finally, I'd like to say that I believe we have the finest nursing home anywhere in Cedar Haven. And the people who work there are dedicated, hardworking individuals. I know that we had to make some changes in the kitchen, but the other employees, as I would walk through, asked that please let them know if we need any more changes. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. So at this point in time, I would like to ask for their buy-in, cooperation, and help to make suggestions on how else we can save money at Cedar Haven to make it even a tighter ship there. But again, I think they're doing a stellar job. But if indeed the financial people have said it is a difficult situation, then we need to look at it closer. And I'm open. I'm all ears for new ideas on how we can tighten that ship.
My reflection on this whole thing would be, first of all, that it's very important to note that this entire rating change was based on 2010, 2011 numbers, and the effort that this board put in making responsible fiscal changes, making sure that there's a fund balance, making sure that we look at every corner of this operation to be fiscally responsible. None of that was reflected in this decision, and I feel confident that this board will continue to do what's necessary to keep the county in good fiscal order and make sometimes difficult but responsible decisions. So I still feel very confident in the things that we have done were the right things to do, and that we're on the right track. And I certainly hope that there's obviously there will be public scrutiny of this process, but I hope that the folks look at the total picture and don't hold this board responsible for that downgrade. Comment,
Let me
Jamie?
make one other comment to the savings, the number, that 180,000. As you might recall, this refunding carried with it some negative arbitrage, meaning that it wasn't a callable issue just yet. It isn't until I think mid-2014, is that right? So part of the cost of refunding was to also set aside, essentially an escrow, an amount of money to pay the current investors their return until 2014 when it's callable. Each month that passes reduces the amount of negative negative arbitrage that's necessary to set aside, so, and it's by about $8,000 a month.
Correct.
So each month that passes, the savings effectively increase by that negative arbitrage dropping away, so.
The rates don't change.
Yeah, if the rates stay the same, you can count on that negative arbitrage dropping away each month.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like I said, an A minus is still a solid rating. It's not like we're dropping, into those categories, which they will review hopefully at the end of the year once they see that $2 million hit. What our recommendation would be is to continue to monitor it, and if the commissioners are okay, when it hits that 200,000 level, whether it be a week from now or 3 months from now, execute the refunding at that time.
Do we need a new motion?
Can you explain a little bit, because I'm going to have to, why 200,000 is the magic number? A lot of people would think 180,000, grab it while you can.
Sure. Well, because you're sitting there with, Jamie talked about the negative arbitrage. It costs us about 170,000 right now to put that money away. You want to have a savings that is higher than the negative arbitrage. Okay, number one. Number two, you also want to get to that. It's from an industry standpoint. If this was a currently callable issue, i.e., I didn't have to put anything aside, you would take a present value of 2% savings. Right now, the 180 is about 2.74. 200,000 is present value of 3% savings. Our recommendation would be to wait for that 3% and make sure that that negative arbitrage is under the savings. It's just a metric that we use. You absolutely have the ability to pull the trigger now. We just feel that that is more than likely that you'd be leaving savings on the table sometime in the future.
On the same token, they could also decide to wait a little bit, and this may sound like getting greedy, but say we're going to wait for 250.
Correct.
That's a possibility
You
too. But
you can set it
who knows?
to whatever you want.
That 180,000, that's not the net savings?
Oh yeah, that is the
That
absolute
is the
net
net
savings right now. Yes, as of this morning.
How much has it cost to get to this point in terms of consultant fees and things like that?
Zero. We don't get paid until it goes.
Advertising.
Oh, excuse me.
And
Yeah, advertisements and I always forget the legal stuff. The advertisements and
The S&P fee.
The
Yes,
fee
and-
for
yeah,
that.
The fee to get
Yeah.
the report
Yeah, the
card.
fee
Thank
to
you
get-
very much.
They will absolutely wait till we.
What did they charge us for that A minus, by the way?
I think it's about 8,000 or 10,000.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Slap in the face.
And one more, can someone speak to the rising cost at Cedar Haven on the county? And is that,
Pension.
what's that associated with?
Jamie.
Well, the numbers that they noted, the 3 years that I read off, the 1.9 million, the 3 million, and the 4.4 million, that includes the ARC, the annual required contribution toward pension. So, in terms of cash only, it's not as though there's 4.4 million in cash going over to Cedar Haven. Bob, you can jump in if I'm getting this wrong, but
Right.
the ARC is booked.
Built into that number, yeah.
In that number, it's booked as a liability to the county that will need to be paid, but it has to be done on a calendar year. So it's booked at the end of the year. Is that?
But in addition to the ARC, there is actually a cash contribution from the county towards Cedar Haven.
Yeah, it's mixed in with the.
It's not in the millions, though.
Several years ago, even with the ARC built in there, Cedar Haven wasn't.
The other
Costing anything.
wasn't a draw.
There was
Yeah.
a margin.
So, as the costs increase and the ARC keeps going up, those numbers are going up pretty dramatically.
And the reimbursement rate from, Medicare and things like that is going down.
Yeah, I think that's what I was.
It used to be
Even if it stays the
95%
same.
funded, and it's not anymore.
Or
at
it
Cedar
stays the
Haven.
same, yeah,
Even
but
if
the
it stays the
costs
same,
go up,
it's a
yeah,
loss, yeah.
right. Yeah.
And I think, just as those numbers get larger on a $35 million budget, 4.4 million is a large, and they're I think that's what they really focused on. I mean, I can't speak for them, but.
And there's some percentages in there that they assign to it as a percentage of the budget.
Which
The ARC is 6% or something like that.